Welcome to our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. Here we're going to take a deep dive into the minds of some really daring, impactful change makers. I'm your host, Gill Hunter, and I'm the managing partner at Square One Law. In each episode, we're going to meet some innovators, some trailblazers, and we're going to talk about their successes, their fears, their challenges, and their lived experiences. We're going to understand their secrets to their resilience and their source of their passion, so that we can understand what drives them to achieve. These are all leaders who inspire us to step out of our own comfort zones and fear less, do more. Welcome to this episode of our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. And today I have with me Sharon Starkey, who is the Managing Director at Resolution. Sharon, welcome.
Thank you.
Good. So, Resolution, for those who don't know, what does Resolution do?
We're a strategic brand marketing design agency, and we work with our clients to deliver business objectives, so aligning comms practices and strategies in order to help them achieve what they're trying to achieve.
And I would have thought in this world of social media, that's becoming more and more at the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah, but I think that people are really keen on sharing what they're doing as a business and their cultures, and it not just being about their business practices and services, but the way they do it. And that's what I find really interesting, and the results that you can get from having a considered strategy rather than just posting something on social media.
And have you always been involved in PR and comms?
Yeah, I kind of fell into marketing. I was a waitress at a hotel, and from there went and worked in the events office, and it kind of went from there. I find it really interesting how the use of language can get a message across and help someone achieve something. And I'm a bit of a geek. I think we've had this conversation separately. So I need all of the information and knowledge, and so it was natural that I would then work with clients to help them get that message across.
So you set up your own business in 2014. What made you make that leap into the world of entrepreneurship?
I'd spent my whole career working for predominantly agencies. So I was representing other clients. I think if you work in marketing, you tend to be in-house or agency, and you're one or the other. And it's really important to work that out early in your career, because I think I would hate being in-house. And I have friends that are in-house that would hate being agency. But I was very much working for some blue chip organizations, and it felt that there was a lot of delivering tasks, strategies that were already in place and very detailed marketing plans and delivering that task. I suffered an illness in 2013, and following that, thought that, I've learned so much from these big organizations. I was incredibly lucky to travel all over the world and learn so much. And I wanted to take what I'd learned and apply it to smaller businesses that don't necessarily have a huge marketing department, but still have business objectives that they're trying to achieve. So it was a conscious decision following an illness of me changing my life and thinking, how can I make a difference?
Do you think if you hadn't had that illness that you would have been fearless enough to do it?
Absolutely not. I was massively risk averse. My friends laugh at me because I was always on an aeroplane. I had an exit plan. I was sitting in the aisle. I was counting the seats forward and back. I was going to get off the plane if it went down. I didn't take my shoes off when the flight was taking off or landing. I was getting off, and planned everything. Absolutely every minute detail of everything we did. I was the organizer. Having been ill, I realised that life's really short, and actually now I'm the exact opposite, and I'm that's the worst that can happen. I'm confident in the fact that I can problem solve. So whatever happens, I can deal with it. Whereas previously I was trying to predict outcomes and predict all of them and then worry about what might happen. And I'm just a completely different person now.
So that's great. That something positive has come out of something that's potentially so negative. Do you think that's made you a different sort of leader in your business?
Yeah, I'm not a natural leader. I don't feel comfortable with the title leader. I never intended to set up a business. I was creating a job for myself. My circumstances had changed, and I was tired of doing some of the things that I'd done previously, and I wanted to craft my own role. And that was resolution. It was me being able to pick and choose what I wanted to work on. I come from a very working class background and a very loving family, but I never knew anyone who ran a business. I didn't understand business concepts. I still don't. In fact, I struggle with business concepts because that's not how our business is. It doesn't align with what you get told. I think what's happened at Resolution is I've surrounded myself with people who know more about the things that I don't know about than I do, and allowed people the autonomy to do what they do best, and that's what's allowed us to grow. We very much pride ourselves on delivering excellence, and if we don't, we'll find someone else, a partner that we can collaborate with to do that. So I don't feel like I'm a leader. I'm part of the team, and I'm surrounded by some amazing people that allow us to do what we do.
And I'm sure that your team would probably say you are the leader of the business. But I think more and more now, people are changing their leadership styles, consciously changing their leadership styles to move away from the historic dictator type model where one person makes decisions and everybody else follows, and are moving into a much more collegiate sort of way of running businesses. And also there's this concept of, the servant leader, that if you're the leader, you're there to support and serve the people that work with you. And I know that you buy into that, but what challenges does that bring in terms of the way that you run the business?
I guess it's really difficult when because I feel it's my responsibility to make sure that everyone has the best job that they can. It started because I wanted to create a job for me, but actually that's important for everybody else as well. You spend so much time at work, and I want everybody to enjoy it. But then it can be quite difficult if you, like I said, I didn't know how to do things. So you start off with your own values, and it's difficult to know that other people don't have those same values. And I don't mean that their values are any better or worse than mine, but you're working to these values. I've recently been doing some sessions with a coach, and I've really understood how I make decisions based on my values and my purpose, and I probably hadn't appreciated that. So I think one of the biggest challenges is understanding where other people are and what drives them, and making sure that you're aligning with that.
So what are your plans for the business?
Oh God, we don't. They're not financial, and I think I've mentioned to you before that I always struggle with that whole the turnover is vanity and profit is sanity thing, and I struggle with it because our turnover's increased significantly in the 9 years we've been trading in order to service the business. Our profit, although it's increased, is not proportional whatsoever with that, and I'm really comfortable with that. I've been accused of creating jobs and not growing a business by somebody in a pinstripe suit. And I'm really proud of that, because we have created jobs for 7 people that's brilliant. And I think for me, I want to keep delivering excellence and creating opportunities for creatives. So, and the plans are that we just keep doing what we're doing, and we do it well, and we adapt.
And I know you're really passionate about education and about creating opportunities for young people. Can you tell me a little bit about the sorts of things you'd like to do there?
Yeah, I think when I was at school, I loved language. I've always loved language, and I wasn't really aware of jobs that involved language. I think there was, it was a long time ago that I was at school, but the creative sector wasn't profiled to me. There was probably some talk of journalism, but that was about it. Yet there's so many careers in the sector, and I talk to teachers now, and they've got English students that love English but don't know what they can do for a job, and have only considered being a teacher because no one talks to them about it. So I'd like to raise awareness for younger people to understand the roles that are out there. It's really important to find a job that you love, and I think as a young person you don't understand that. But also to give young creatives real life experience. I think that we speak to lots of students that study graphic design or PR, and they're working on campaigns that aren't real life campaigns. It might be something for a big blue chip brand that they're probably never going to work on. And I want them to understand how brilliant it is working on sometimes smaller brands, probably most of the time smaller brands, and give them an opportunity to work on real life campaigns and decide whether it's something that they want to do.
Yeah, and I think, the majority of the businesses, not just in the Northeast, but across the country, are SMEs. Mm-hmm. They are smaller businesses, and I think the skills that people need to work in those sorts of businesses are very different if you're working in a big corporate.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we find a way to enable our students and our future employees to come through with some of those skills in place.
Yeah.
I know we find that with law as well. Like you get somebody who's a brilliant technical lawyer who understands all of the law from the last however many years, but has no idea how to apply it to an SME who's saying, I know I'm not supposed to do that, but how can I do it?
I think that I find that I think education needs to work better with industry, and so that we can allow students that opportunity and to understand how important it is to problem solve. Instead of teaching A plus B equals C, for us as a business, we generally start with C. We're reverse engineering a problem. And A plus B might be one of the options, but also Z minus Y. And the excitement is when the team gets together and throws in all this stuff and we decide collaboratively which is the best way to get to C. And I think that when we bring students into the business and allow them to see that creative process, they really get to understand that actually we can have a say in this, and it's that way of thinking in a different way that actually has a real impact, instead of traditionally what at school, when it's a case of I'm in this on my own to get a result.
Yeah, I think absolutely, and the more we can make the education system fit for purpose, we've got a hope and house chance of solving some of the skills shortages that we've got now, and solving them quicker. When you're doing your day job, I mean, obviously you're working with lots of different sorts of organisations and businesses, and you must have seen some fantastic businesses and products and services that have been offered. What's one of the most memorable things that you've had?
That's a tough question. I'm excited by everything that my clients do all the time, and I get quite animated when there's a campaign. And it might be something, I mean, one of my favourite clients, we have a client that makes ratchet tensioners for trailers. And it doesn't sound very exciting, but it's there's two joint managing directors at the organisation. And one of the guys, he started as an apprentice and they went through a management buyout, but he was the apprentice that drew the first drawing of this part that's the only thing that they now sell. And watching him go through his business and them really caring about what it is that they do and working to these really fine margins even more than they have to, it's taking their passion and helping the world see that is what I love. So yeah, the Ratchet Tensioner Company is one of my favorites. We also work with quite a lot of charities, and I love that. You meet some amazing people that are doing brilliant things, and it's very humbling, and delivering in really difficult circumstances. I love that. There isn't an answer. I love all of it.
You can tell that you are genuinely passionate about about the work that not just that you're doing, but your clients are doing as well.
And I think that's why I say I'm not comfortable with the leader thing, because I'll never be not involved in client work. I regularly say, I just want to write copy, I love getting involved. We have massive debates in our office all the time about apostrophes and semicolons and whether you should use a capital letter or not. And I want to continue being involved in those. I want to always be involved in the creative process. And quite recently, we've just employed our first non-creative, although she is still very creative, but to work in an admin role, to take some of those tasks away from me so I can continue to be involved in client work. Because, that's the fun.
And your passion for language comes through. You're saying you love working out where the apostrophes should be and all of that sort of stuff. And you told me a story recently around 1984. I think that's a really interesting thing that you've done in your business.
Okay, this is when I was at school, I read 1984, George Orwell's 1984. And there's for anyone that doesn't know, there's a concept called newspeak. And the idea is that it's reducing a language in order to control people. So instead of great, excellent, amazing, there's good, double good, ungood, double ungood. And they're reducing words. And I remember thinking when reading that at school that if you can reduce language to control people, then surely extensive vocab is what makes you free. And it was at that point where I went about learning all of the words, just learning them all, reading loads of books and just taking in as much information as I could and reading everything, you know, adverts and magazine articles. And that's probably where I got my passion for marketing. I now have tens of copies of 1984 in the office, and every time I travel to another country, I buy a copy in the local language, which gives me an excuse to go to a bookshop, which is amazing. And my friends also buy me copies whenever they travel. So we have loads of them in the office. And it was what got me started on language.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit of an anchor, really, isn't it? That takes you back to the reasons why you set the business up in the first place and where your passion for that type of work came from.
And I think when we talk about education, that's what's really interesting. I've always loved language, but I never associated it with work. And I think that there's so many young people that have passions and don't know about careers. You know, when I think about people that I consider to be successful, they're people that are doing jobs that they love. They're people that are passionate about what they're doing. And most of those jobs I hadn't heard of when I was at school. I think we've got to be better at exposing some of the opportunities out there and giving young people the choice of doing something that they love. And
do you still read a lot now?
Yeah, I like classics. So I'll go back and read. I read 1984 again every year. But I like classic books, proper books I call them. You know, the girls in the office will come in with other books and it's not a proper book, read a proper book. I like, but I just like to read anything. I read as much as I can.
So what are you reading at the moment?
Well, I'm reading 1984 again, and I'm reading The Book Thief, which was a recommendation from a colleague. So I'm only just into it, so we'll see.
Do you prefer fiction to fact?
Yeah. And I listen to loads of podcasts. I do quite a bit of driving. I listen to quite a lot of podcasts. I think it's just always interesting to hear other people's opinions and another perspective, and especially if it's different to your own. I love getting other opinions and playing devil's advocate in the office to try and encourage another opinion so that we can consider everything before making a decision. And I think reading and listening allows you to just have a wider perspective on things.
Yeah, I always think that reading's one way you can travel without going anywhere. You can experience things that you're never going to do in day-to-day life. So I'm a big advocate and really passionate about reading. It was one of the things I found really hard was that my children didn't engage with reading in the same way as I had, because that's all I did. But there are so many other distractions now. But actually, as they're getting older, they're starting to get into reading. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way language is changing. I get really frustrated. I consider myself a custodian of the English language and I'm quite protective of it. And then all of these new words come out and people are doing things in different ways. I mean, I put full stops at the end of my WhatsApps and some of the team tell me that it can be quite harsh. But I'm like, no, it's the end of a sentence. But I do think the evolution of language and how it changes and people use it differently is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not taught in the same way as it was when I was at school, and grammar was absolutely key. And that I don't know whether it's come back in now, but certainly for a period it waned. I mean, is it important, grammar? Is it really important?
Well, I think so, and I appreciate it's not the most important thing, and I don't think that people should hold themselves back because they're concerned that they might be spelling something incorrectly. I notice it, but I appreciate that I've spent my career proofreading things, so stuff will jump out. I think passion's more important than accuracy. But I think that, taking the time to read something over before you publish it or having someone else read it to get their opinion on it is really important. Yeah, I think it's important for me personally. I want it to be accurate.
And you've got lots of other things that you do outside of your own business. So you're one of the trustees of the Tees Business Club, and you're also a trustee at a cancer charity as well. How do you end up in those roles, and how do you balance your time between all of the different things that you do?
I love I just work. I don't really my free time is doing, so because my job is so great and I love it, I can get involved in things and it's fun, you know, and I think it's really important to make sure that you're not overstretching yourself and take time for yourself. And I do that by reading. So I do take time off. And I also really like to travel, but I've got ideas and I want to get involved and I want to help. And so it doesn't feel like a chore or a task. So yeah, I think just being aware of setting standards and making sure that you're reaching those standards. And if you're not, then something's got to give, and revisiting. But while I can still do stuff and have the time for it, then I will.
And one of the most surprising things about you is that you're a grandma.
Yes, nanny. I'm a nanny to
Albie.
Yeah, he's adorable. So I only have one daughter, and she's amazing. And we've been incredibly close. I was young when I had her, and then she was young when she had Albie. And he's just adorable. He's my best friend. I call him my sidekick. And
how old is he now?
He's just turned 2. And we're the nanny and grandson that are in, we go to Tesco, and he likes to scan the food, but I turn the trolley round so that he feels like he's driving, and we'll push him along and he's scanning all of the stuff. We just have such a great time. His outlook on life and watching him evolve without having the pressures of being a mum. So I was really impressed with him recently, and it's not a hugely impressive thing, but being able to take stock of this. I'd said, is this for you? And he said, me. And I thought, understanding that, you know, and taking language and yeah, it's 2 years ago, he was just being born. He didn't know any of this, and watching his language evolve and him understand things. Beth's done sign language with him, which is really lovely. So we'll say, someone will give something to him and he does this, which is thank you. And so that's another language, and watching how that works. And yeah, it's great.
So you're reading to him as well?
Yeah, I read with him all the time. He much prefers playing with cars and trucks, but we try and read, yeah.
There's some brilliant children's literature out there now, and it was one of the sort of things that I really enjoyed doing. I'm not sure my children enjoyed it as much as I did when they were little. So this podcast is called Fear Less, Do More. When do you think you've been at your most fearless in your career?
Oh gosh, I think I'm not so scared by things now, because I think it's making mistakes and learning from them. It makes you realise the resilience that you have. And I feel comfortable in the fact now that I'll deal with the situation as it's presented. So it might be difficult and it might be challenging, but you always get to the end of it. So yeah, I feel fairly fearless. I feel like I can succeed and if we haven't got to the point that we need to get to, we just haven't finished yet. You know, we just need to keep going.
That's a really nice way to look at it. That's a really good perspective to have. And in the future, what would you like to do more of?
Oh gosh, what would I like to do more of? I love what I do now. I find it really hard to look into the future and do that planning and objectives and all of that stuff. I just love being in the moment. I feel incredibly lucky to be here. I feel that I've been in a career that's working on future campaigns, deadlines, constant deadlines. I worked in the events sector for a long time, and we were always looking ahead, sometimes 12, 18 months. I love being in the now. I love soaking up the moment and just observing everything and all of the detail and just how wonderful the world is and the people that are in it. So yeah, that's probably a bit of a cop-out, but I don't know, just more of what I'm doing.
No, I think that's really interesting, because most people struggle with being in the moment and are always looking ahead at what's next. But you've managed to find a way to really, nearly knock the glass of water over, ground yourself in the now and just enjoy what's in front of you now. And I think that's incredibly powerful. That's brilliant. So well done on that. Thanks ever so much for coming and having a chat with me today, Sharon. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Fear Less, Do More. All of our guests come from a diverse range of backgrounds, but they all share a common drive to face their fears, take action, and create meaningful impact. If you've enjoyed this episode of our podcast, please follow us, Square One Law, on Instagram and LinkedIn, and share the content with your friends, family, and networks. Thank you, and see you again on our next episode.